This is ACT practice set 3. We're squaring a binomial 3x plus 7, which means multiply that by itself. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 7 is 21x, and then you have another 3x times 7, which is 21x, and then you have 7 times 7, which is 49. The correct answer is E. For this problem, we have a cylinder, and we're told the height of the cylinder is 6, and you're asked for the distance the base of the ladder is away from the pool. Well, we now have a right triangle with the height 6, and the hypotenuse we don't need, the ladder we don't need, but we do need to know how far away the base is from the pool. So we're going to use tangent. The tangent of the angle 75 is opposite leg 6 over the adjacent leg x. If you solve for x, you get 6 over the tangent of 75, which is answer choice F. For a population that grows at a constant rate of r% per year, the formula is given. This is an exponential function. You'll notice that the initial population is this number out here. So we're told that we start with 782,000. So that number would go right there. So you would choose either A, B, or C, not D or E, because D had the number inside the parentheses. Next, you're told that the rate is 5%. So that means add 5% to 100% to get your multiplier. 100% plus 5% is 105%. So the decimal equivalent is 1.05. So that makes the answer C the correct answer. The inequality is equivalent to which of the following? Well, simply distribute the numbers, solve for x, and be sure to turn your answer around to get x is less than 18. The correct answer was K. In standard position in the coordinate plane, the midpoint is given, and you're given one of the endpoints. An easy way to do this is to sketch the picture. So you'll notice we have one endpoint. We have the midpoint, and we're trying to find this one. Well, notice this x goes from 1 to 4, so that means this one would have to be 7, because it's got to go up the same amount. 1 to 4 is 3 more. 4 to this one is 7, and the y's do the same. So we had -5. Well, you're going up 2 to get to this one, so you need to go up 2 more to get to this one. So the correct answer is, what is the value of x plus y? So you would add 7 minus 1, which is 6. The correct answer was C. Tickets for the senior talent show at George Washington Carver is $3 for adults, $2 for students, and they must have a total more than... Actually, it says right here, at least $600. So if you'll just write this inequality, 3x, because we have x adults in these graphs, 2y, because we have y for the students, and then we need the total to be greater than or equal to 600. Well, 3 goes into 600 200 times, so your x-intercept is 200. That would give you G or H, so it's one of these. The 2 goes into 600 300 times, so your y-intercept was 300, so it's not G, but it is H. So these are this is the only graph with the correct intercepts. 200 adults and 300 children or students. The point 0.25 is shown in the standard coordinate plane, which is another point on the line with a slope of -2/3. Well, if you'll start at 2/5 and just draw a line down to right 3, it'll look like this, and it will go through point D. So the correct answer is D. The edges of a cube are each 3 inches long. Well, you have to know that a cube looks like this, has 6 squares. 6 faces that are all squares. So you just need to find the area of one square and multiply that by 6. So one square is 3 by 3. So 9 times 6 is 54. The answer is K. Number 9. A number is increased by 25%. That would be 125%. And the resulting number is decreased by 20%. So 100% minus 20% is 80%. So this is how you set this up. 100% plus 25% is 1.25. 100% minus 20% is 0.8. If you multiply those together, you get 1. So you actually get 100% So the answer was C. So if you do this, you're going to, in fact, to do this, just pick a number and try it and see that you do get this result. You get the same problem number you started with. The answer was C. Number 10, two numbers are reciprocals if the product is equal to 1. If x and y are reciprocals and x is greater than 0, then y must be, well, a good idea here is just to pick a number greater than 1. So I chose a 5. If x is 5, then y has to be a fifth, because 5 times 1/5 the 5s would divide out and give you the 1. So that means it can't be negative. If I have a positive number, if I multiply by a negative number, I'm going to get a negative number. So anything with a negative in here, like F and G, would not be correct. If you multiply by 0, you're not going to get a 1. You're going to get a 0. So you don't want to pick H. So the actual answer is J. This number has to be a fraction between 0 and 1. So J was the correct answer. Number 11, the number line graph shown below is the graph of which inequality? Well, the thing about these inequalities is they're kind of all turned backwards. So if we'll write the inequality the normal way, x is less than or equal to -1 because it's left of -1 and shaded in here. X is greater than or equal to 3, so it's shaded in and to the right. Then we just need to figure out which one is equivalent to this. First of all, we know not to choose A or B because of the words and then it's C, D, or E. Well, if x is less than or equal to -1, that means -1 is greater than or equal to x, which means that's D or E. And 3, x is greater than or equal to 3 is 3 is less than or equal to x, so that would be D. The correct answer is answer choice D. -1 is greater than or equal to x, or 3 is less than or equal to x. Which of the following is true for all consecutive integers m and n, such that m is less than n? So if you recall, consecutive integers are the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on forever. So it's saying just pick two numbers here so that m is less than n. And consecutive means they have to be right next to each other. So let's pick 4 and 5. Well, the question is m is even in this case, but it didn't have to be. I could have chosen it to be odd. So you definitely don't want to choose F or G because I could start anywhere I want. For all consecutive integers, m could be even or odd, n could be even or odd. But if I subtract two numbers right next to each other, I'm going to get a 1 always. So there's no way the difference is even. The difference is always odd. If I square them, so let's square 25 and let's square 4, we get 16. 25 minus 16 is odd, and that is true, but is it always true? 4 and 2, if I square 4, I get 16, 3, I get 9. That's odd. Looks like it's always true. 2 squared and 3 squared is 4 and 9. So basically one of them is going to be odd and one is going to be even. So if I subtract, I will get an odd. So the correct answer is J. For K, it is not true. Again, one of them, when you square, will be even. 2 times 2 is 4, and the other will be odd. 3 times 3 is 9. There's no way to get an even answer out always. So the correct answer was J. Number 13, a function is defined as follows. For x greater than 0, you would use the first equation, and for x less than 0, you would use the second equation. So since it's -1, you'll use the second equation, and you'll plug in -1 for all of your x's. Since you have a negative raised to an odd power here, this stays negative, but if you multiply by a negative, you end up with a +1 here. -1 to the 4th is 1. 36 times -1 is -36, and then of course you have the -36. So 1 and -36 is -35. You have another -35, so you end up with a -70. The correct answer was A. What is the length in feet of the hypotenuse of a right triangle if legs are 6 and 8? This is a classic Pythagorean Theorem problem. 6 squared plus 7 squared equals c squared, and then you take the square root. Well, 6 squared plus 7 squared is equal to 85. The correct answer was G. In the equations of the two graphs shown, y1 is sine. Well, you know that's this one. It's actually labeled for you. And y2 is cosine, and that's labeled for you as well. That's the darker one. So it's asking you which statement is true. Well, look closely. A1 is the number we're multiplying by the sine. Well, this graph is much taller, so that A1 has to be bigger. In the second graph, A2, that's your cosine, that has to be smaller. So that's telling you A1 is bigger than A2. So if you're writing an inequality, you would write one like B. A2 is between 0 and whatever this number is, and A1 is the largest. So from least to greatest, the correct answer should be B. This one looks really challenging, but if you actually just sketch what this looks like, this will help you. It says between 0 and pi over 2, so we're in the first quadrant. The cosine is your horizontal side of a right triangle, your sine is your vertical side, and your hypotenuse is always 1 in the unit circle. So we know sine squared plus cosine squared has to equal 1 because of the Pythagorean theorem. So that means this expression 1 minus cosine squared is really sine squared. It's this. And 1 minus sine squared is really cosine squared. So if you'll just substitute those in there, the square root of sine squared is just sine. And the square root of cosine squared is cosine. Well, sine over sine gives you 1. And cosine over cosine gives you 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. The correct answer was H. Number 17. Consider the functions f of x, which is square root of x, and g of x, which is 7x plus b, and they always put this phrase in standard xy coordinate plane. Y is f of g of x. This is a composite function, and it's telling you to plug your g of x into f of x. So that would look like this. 7x plus b goes here. Now, if you use a y instead of a function notation, this is a little easier. You can substitute this 4 in this point in place of the x, and you can substitute the 6 in place of the y, or the f of x. And then you're going to see which one of these answer choices makes sense. Well, 7 times 4 is 28. So the question is, what can I add to 28 that would make this square root equal 6? Square root of 36 is equal to 6. So if I have 28, I'm going to need to add 8 more to get 36. So the correct answer was A. The slope of a line with the equation y is equal to a times x plus b is greater than the slope of a line with the equation y equals c times x plus b. Well, the slope is the a and the c. So if the slope is greater, that means the a must be greater than the c. So the correct answer was J. 19. A function is odd if for every value f of negative x is the same as negative f of x. So here we know that odd functions are symmetric to the origin. The first function is actually even because it's symmetric to the y-axis. B is also even. It is symmetric to the y-axis. C is neither because it's not centered at the origin. If you move it over a little to the left, it could be odd. It's not even. D could be odd if you moved it up, but it doesn't go through the origin, so it's not symmetric to the origin. So the correct answer is E. You'll notice the right side, if you turned it upside down, will look just like the left side. And it does go through the origin. So E is odd. What is the real value of x in the equation? This was a little more complicated than one we've had in the past. The first thing you would do is use your property. If you subtract logs, remember these are exponents, you're going to divide the numbers 24 and 3 and get 8. So you have log base 2 of 8. Well, 2 to the third power is 8. So you're going to replace this expression with 3. And now we have an equation we can rewrite in exponential form. 5 raised to the third power is equal to the x. So base 5, exponent 3, 5 to the third power is 125. So the correct answer is J.